My name is Harold, and I'm 90 years old. I suppose you could say I've lived a long life. Long enough to carry the weight of choices I wish I could undo, and long enough to see clearly the advice that steered me the wrong way. When I was younger, people told me to play it safe, to avoid risk, to keep my head down and follow the rules because the world was unforgiving and life would punish the reckless. I believed them, of course. I carried their words like a shield, thinking it was wisdom, not realizing it was a kind of cage. And only now, sitting in this quiet house, do I understand how those words shaped decades of my life without me even noticing. I grew up in a small town where people measured success by how steady your life looked on the surface. My father told me to get a steady job, to marry well, to buy a home, and not to chase dreams that seemed foolish or impractical. My mother whispered similar advice, urging me to avoid embarrassment, to avoid discomfort, and to blend in. They did not mean harm. They were only repeating what they had been taught, what had worked for them, what had kept them safe. For years, I followed that guidance meticulously, thinking I was being responsible, thinking I was being wise, thinking I was building a good life. I married a woman I loved, though perhaps not with the fullness of my heart, but with the approval of everyone around me. I worked jobs that were safe and predictable, never the ones that stirred my curiosity or made my heart race. I saved diligently, worried constantly about the future, and I listened to every piece of advice offered, believing it would protect me from failure, from ridicule, from disappointment. And for a long time, it did. I had a stable life. People nodded approvingly at my prudence. I looked successful in their eyes. I bought the house. I raised the children. I held steady through every storm. On the outside, my life looked complete, orderly, respectable. But somewhere along the way, I began to notice the emptiness. There was a quiet ache that no paycheck, no approval, no comfort, and no routine could soothe. It started as a small whisper, a shadow at the edges of my consciousness. I noticed the dreams I had let die quietly, the roads I had avoided walking because they seemed uncertain or risky, the words I had left unsaid to those I cared for most because someone had once advised me to keep my emotions in check. I realized that the life I had built with so much care had inadvertently become a life I barely recognized as mine. I remember the first time it hit me clearly, maybe when I was in my 50s, sitting on the porch after dinner, watching my children run in the yard. I thought of the painting I had once dreamed of creating, the small business I had imagined opening in another city, the letters I never wrote to friends who had drifted away. I thought about the vacations I postponed, the adventures I abandoned, all because I had been following advice intended to keep me safe. And I understood, slowly and painfully, that I had been obeying the wrong voices, and that safety had come at the cost of experience, curiosity, and, sometimes, love. It was not a sudden revelation, not a single lightning moment, but a gradual awareness, creeping in as friends passed away, as the quiet of the house pressed on me, and as memories of chances not taken flickered like old film reels in my mind. I began to see patterns in my life I had never noticed before. How the advice I treasured, the words I carried like armor, had slowly narrowed the paths before me, narrowing not for my benefit, but for the comfort of others who feared I might fail or stumble. And with that awareness came a heaviness, the realization that my regrets were not about mistakes or failures, but about timidity, about caution taken too seriously, about a lifetime spent listening to the wrong voices instead of my own. I remember speaking to my children once about this, when they were grown and visiting me after work. I tried to explain it gently, without blaming anyone, including myself. I told them about the dreams I had abandoned, the words I had held back, the risks I had refused to take, and I watched them listen, their faces calm but thoughtful, understanding, I think, for the first time, how much life can slip away in quiet obedience. I wanted them to know that advice, even well-meaning advice, is never sacred. It is always colored by someone else's fears, someone else's limitations, and someone else's idea of what safety looks like. Now, at 90, I sit with that knowledge gently, neither bitter nor resentful, simply aware. I understand the people who advised me. They were trying to spare me pain, to make my life smoother, to give me security. But the truth I've discovered is that security without vitality is a slow, quiet erosion. Protection is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a cage. I have learned that courage is quiet, that curiosity requires defiance, and that the risks that feel foolish often contain the richest experiences. And so, if I could speak to anyone listening, I would say this: listen carefully. But remember that your life is not a debt to other people's fears. Take risks that scare you. Pursue what feels true, even if it seems impractical. And speak the words your heart has been holding back. Do not defer the life you imagine because someone else fears it might fail. Because in the end, the life that is fully lived is not the one that followed every instruction, but the one that responded to its own curiosity, its own longing, its own imperfect courage. I think often about the road not taken, the words not spoken, the love held back, and the dreams delayed. But I don't dwell in regret. I simply acknowledge the truth of it. Some advice is necessary, yes, but much of it is noise, and it has the power to quiet the very instincts that make life worth living. When you are young, it can feel impossible to know which voices to follow. But the older you get, the more you realize that the voice that matters most is your own. The life that is truly yours is the one where you have listened to it, even when it trembled with fear, even when it went against the grain, even when it seemed reckless. I have learned, finally, that the quietest advice, the one that comes from your own heart, is the one that matters most. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this: not all wisdom is worth keeping. Some advice, even well-meaning, is best set aside, so you might find the life that belongs only to you, before time runs out and you are left only with what others told you to do. And if you can, start listening to yourself today. Don't wait. Don't postpone your own curiosity, your own courage, your own love. The years may be long, but they are finite, and they pass far faster than we imagine until we reach 90 and realize how quietly they have slipped away, taking with them the chances we never took because we were too careful, too obedient, too afraid. The life you dream of may never feel safe. It may never have the approval of others, but it will be yours fully if you choose to hear it and follow it.